Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon. So today we have one of the last patches of 2024 and we're going to go over just all the changes here and then talk to you guys about the meta. And then I will also create, after a couple days, a meta report video to explain to you guys basically what champions are the strongest. So getting right into it, the first champion we have is Katarina. She's getting a pretty sizable buff. Her passive is getting additional damage, more movement speed from her second ability, and more AP scaling on her ultimate. So Katarina has always been a counter pick champion that one tricks can utilize very well. Anytime the enemy don't have a lot of CC or they're very squishy, Katarina can one-shot them and completely snowball a game, and she's a very good solo queue champion. So right now, because of this buff, she's going to be really solid anytime that you can get a good counter pick, or if you're just a one trick on Katarina. So overall, I do think that this buff is pretty meaningful. However, if you're not very good at this champion, it's definitely going to be hard for you to get a lot of value from, and it certainly finds more value into low CC comps, and obviously the less coordination the better. So usually in solo queue, especially when the enemy don't ping your roams as much and everything, you're going to get a lot of value from playing Katarina after the new patch. Okay, and then we have Sion, who is getting a damage buff to his first ability, both the minimum and maximum damage, and then his second ability is also getting a damage buff. So overall, just giving Sion a bit better damage. I mean, he's already a decent tank champion, and this is going to kind of help his early lane phase and just help him do a bit more damage. I don't think this is anything crazy. I mean, I think it helps him out a little bit, but it's not like this damage is going to frequently be the difference between a kill or not. So overall, Sion, still a decent tank, especially when the enemy don't have a lot of great damage and you want to stack, a certain type of resistance or something. But if the enemy have really good tank killers, then Sion is still going to struggle, as he always does. Okay, next up we have a very small Evelynn buff, which is just her ultimate cooldown going from 105 seconds level 1 to 95, from 85 to 80 on level 2, and then staying the same once you have that fully maxed out. So honestly, in my opinion, Evelynn is such an amazing solo queue champion by design. Wild Rift players, frankly, most of them suck at the game and don't understand how to track an enemy. Evelynn, they won't properly use wards on her camps. They won't properly utilize control wards, but mostly warding your camps and everything like that. They won't be able to track her jungling, all of these things. And so because of this, in my opinion, Evelynn is always a really good solo queue jungler. Even right now, when Evelynn is in a very weak state as a champion in terms of the just objective, look at the champion, I still think that Evelynn is a very good solo queue champion, especially below Master, but even Master Plus, because most Master players also lack this awareness. So if you're really looking for an underrated champion that not many people play, maybe this buff can give you a reason to look into really one-tricking or grinding Evelynn in solo queue. Because again, she, similar to Katarina, is a champion that is significantly better in solo queue compared to in more coordinated games for sure. So overall, this buff, not a big change for Evelynn, but I do think even though Evelynn's not the strongest right now, if you play her in solo queue in the lower elos especially, she's going to be quite strong. Okay, then Zed is getting a buff. His first and third ability are now going to consume less energy, which in my opinion is a much bigger change than you might originally think just by looking at this. I mean, this champion is completely based around spamming his abilities and cooldowns and everything, so having this lower energy consumption alongside a build that has a lot of ability haste in it will allow you to really spam your abilities. Overall, Zed is already a decent champion in the meta right now. In mid lane, he struggles a bit in the early lane, so this less energy consumption will allow him to get maybe an extra last hit or two that he otherwise would only be able to get the XP from, which can help him out a bit. And in jungle, he's in general a very strong champion when he has AP around, on other parts of the map and all that. So overall, Zed gonna be still like a slightly above average champion. I don't think he's gonna become broken with this change, but I do think that it is a meaningful change overall. Okay, so now we have potentially the biggest winner of the entire patch, and I didn't really expect this, but Ramis is getting a major buff. His cooldown on his first ability is getting lowered significantly. That's 3 seconds level 1, 2 seconds level 2 difference, 1 level 3 as well, and then the same, once it's maxed out. That's really big. He's getting more damage scaling based on his armor. For his second ability, he's getting a lower cooldown on his third ability and a lower cooldown on his ultimate. Ramis, similar to how Malphite got buffed last patch, is going to be an absurdly god tier champion into heavy AD comps. If the enemy have 4 or say 3 AD and then maybe an enchanter support or a tank support and then 1 AP, Ramis is going to be insane, just like how Malphite is insane right now. So this is definitely going to be an interesting pick to see kind of go up in the meta significantly after this. I'm definitely thinking that this is a great champion to have in your champion pool whenever you want to counter heavy AD comps as a jungler. Okay, so these next set of nerfs are going to be really nice for any top lane player. They're definitely going to be grateful to see these. So they're trying to get Vayne out of the top lane. And so here what they're doing is buffing Vayne's overall AD per level, but they're nerfing Vayne's first ability cooldown. That's basically going to make it a lot harder to consistently bully your laner because, you know, typically if you're playing the Vayne top lane, you just, you know, your first ability, you auto attack them, you kite away again or whatever, or you tumble away. It's going to be a lot harder to, you know, bully as hard in top lane. So this nerf, honestly, I don't think it's going to do as much as like people maybe act like. I don't really think that this makes her that much worse in top lane, and I don't think it makes her much better in ADC. So I still think that Vayne is going to be a very bad ADC, and it's still going to be a decent top lane counter pick into the likes of Garen or, you know, the tanky champions that Vayne typically is picked to counter already. Okay, so then we have Tristana nerfs, and it actually surprises me how many people hate Tristana. Anytime that I mention that Tristana is my favorite ADC, my entire Twitch chat and YouTube chat turn on me like I'm some sort of evil demon who said something really, really bad. So I'm sure that a lot of you guys are going to be very happy about this. Tristana's base AD is going from 58 to 54, and her third ability damage is getting a large nerf, 15 in the early game on her first level, then going down by 10 on the second level, going down by 5 on the third level, and staying the same once you're all the way in the late game. So basically, Tristana's early game damage is significantly nerfed. And if you guys don't really know the strengths of Tristana, obviously her late game is really, really strong once you get that range. But early game, she actually has a lot of overall damage, which is what made her so good in top lane, was that damage that she has, because you don't really care about the lack of range in the early game if you're playing top lane. So that's why they're doing these types of nerfs to, again, get her out of the top lane especially. But also in the early lane phase, she's now not going to be as good with aggressive engaged supports like Nautilus and Thresh like she used to be, where they could set her up really nicely for early game damage. So overall, I do think Tristana is genuinely going to be one of the bottom tier ADCs in the game right now. I think this is going to make her extremely weak as an ADC, and I don't think top lane that she'll be that strong either. Maybe I'm wrong, but this seems like a pretty significant nerf to me, because her early game damage was really the way that she could still get out into the late game. But late game, if you do get out on Tristana, you're going to be strong, but I don't think you're going to be as strong as the likes of Kai'Sa or Zeri or a lot of the other best like late game ADCs right now. So overall, Tristana getting nerfed quite a lot. Okay, and then they basically did the same thing to Kalista as well. Kalista basic attack damage going down by 4, and her damage on her third ability going down as well. And as much as I said that this is a nerf that will hurt Tristana, I think that this nerf hurts Kalista infinitely more. The reason for that is because Kalista does not have that late game fallback that Tristana does. At least Tristana can do something in the late game, but Kalista is frankly only an early game champion, and if Kalista does not stomp lane, Kalista is not a good champion whatsoever. And so with this nerf being, you know, very similar to Tristana one, I genuinely think Kalista may be the worst ADC in the game. Very, you know, at least one of the worst ADCs in the game after this change. So I think, again, Tristana will still be in the middle of the pack, maybe slightly below average, but after this nerf to Kalista's damage, she is going to be very bad as a champion. I really do not recommend that you play her. I do think this nerf is good because of top lane Kalista, but in terms of ADC Kalista, it's really, really going to struggle now after these nerfs, in my opinion. And they did decide to nerf the most OP champion in the game, guys. So I'm sure everyone, especially ADC players, are happy that they no longer have to have a Warwick flying at them and one-shotting them, you know, out of nowhere. Warwick passive is getting nerfed. The basic attack damage is getting lowered, you know, from 12 to 61 to 12 to 46. The first ability is getting less AP scaling, and it's going to do less max % health damage. So basically, it's going to be worse in terms of the AP build, which is especially strong in jungle. And then he's also going to be worse into tanks now in comparison to before, which is going to nerf him, especially in top lane, for that specific nerf. And then his ultimate cooldown going up by 10 seconds on each level. The duration of the empowered attack after landing, so basically once you ultimate, how you can auto attack someone and then get that suppression. Now, instead of it being for the next 5 seconds, you have to do it within 2.5 seconds, which makes it a bit more punishing if you really misaim that ult by a lot. And then the damage is also getting nerfed by 25 on all of the levels, which is also a pretty significant nerf. So as a whole, Warwick is getting nerfed quite sizably. However, I think that his top lane laning phase is still going to be mega broken. The AD build is not getting nerfed as hard as the AP build, and you guys have seen me mostly playing the AD build anyways, especially in the top lane. So I think that he's still going to be a really good top laner, really good lane phase. In jungle, the AP build is going to struggle, but I still think he's going to be a good aggressive early game champion to get your teammates through the lane phase if you have some good scaling champions, or if you really want to snowball the game. So I would say he goes from being, you know, broken, most insane champion in the entire game, to around the A tier, still a strong champion, and still definitely going to be very effective in the meta overall. Okay, and then the final changes of the patch are going to be a couple rune changes. So they're going to be buffing First Strike by making it do 8% bonus damage instead of 7, and it's going to give you 10 instead of 5 gold on the initial proc of First Strike. That's not really anything major. However, it is really good for First Strike users. So I play a lot of First Strike users like Syndra, Varus, and Jace. And these champions, they all use First Strike really well. Any poke champion that has a lot of burst damage is going to already utilize First Strike very well. And I think that those champions are going to continue to utilize it and are going to be, you know, a bit stronger in the meta, but I don't think it's a huge change that, you know, is game breaking or anything like that. But I don't really think that any champion who doesn't already use First Strike will start using it, you know? So I think overall it just makes those First Strike champions a bit better, but nothing crazy. And then they're nerfing lethal tempo, which I think is great because this rune is mega OP on ADCs. So now instead of giving 7 to 15% bonus attack speed, it's going to give 4 to 13% per stack. And then the bonus attack speed is going to be the same for melee champions. So overall, the ADCs that utilize this are getting nerfed. I still think most ADCs that use for lethal tempo will use it because it's just a rune designed for ADCs. So they're still probably going to utilize this. And realistically, this attack speed's not anything crazy. But it is a solid nerf, and it will make champions like Kai'Sa feel less oppressive to play against. And most of these on-hit builds that are really basic attack focused, they're going to see a bit of a nerf. So overall, that's going to be it for the patch, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Honestly, I do really like a lot of the changes. I know that a lot of people love those range tops being nerfed a bit. I like that Warwick's getting nerfed. Going to make it so that I can hopefully play him more. First Strike is really nice for me as well. So overall, I would say this patch of, you know, anywhere from saying F to S if I'm rating it, I would say is like an A tier patch. I think it's a good patch. I think there's good changes to it. Nothing crazy, but the champions that needed buffs and nerfs, generally a lot of them got it. So I'm happy about that. As always, I do coaching, link in the description to that. Memberships on my channel as well if you're interested in that. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. I hope you enjoyed the video.